Hello, everyone. Today is November 14th. Welcome to the OLM working group meeting. Today we have a few items on the agenda, so let's get started. First, we have the RFCs and briefs that are currently under review. And there's the OLM V1 craft application RFC that is due by the end of the week, if I'm not mistaken. Would anyone like to speak to that?
Yeah, I put that little note in there. As part of that, I just wanted to make sure that I understood the ramifications of the deprecation on the upgrade graph, right? And so it looks like Nikolai is gonna talk about that a little later on, but I wanted to make sure I understood what all the upgrade influences are gonna happen there. Because I'm still confused on what we're actually doing with OLMV1 from an update perspective. Because it looks like the RFC talks about a few things, and then the December upgrade is a feature flag or a feature gate, and then there's still probably OLM v0 support back there, and then there's kind of this Wild West if you can do whatever you want. I'm just wondering what the end goal is and how deprecation fits into influencing the constraints around the upgrade model.
Nikolai, you had
Yeah,
something to say?
I wanted to quickly mention that I haven't had a chance to look into graph deprecation thoroughly. But as far as I understand, it's not that relevant to what I'm going to present. The graph deprecation is about deprecating a certain and Bryce, correct me if I'm wrong. It's about deprecating certain edges in the upgrade graph. So in catalog, so like you have a version which you no longer wish to have in your upgrade graph, you can make it as deprecated. And what I'm going to talk about is more about how we build grade edges, and they will probably be related at some point, but not right now. So Bryce, if you're here and if you want to comment on this, please go ahead.
Yeah, so as far as the that RFC, there hasn't been much activity on it, but the current proposal in that RFC is kind of that deprecation doesn't mean that it's out of the update, like the upgrade graph, but just that it's like flagged. So the idea there is that, like, say, you have a release process where like you have like EUS type releases, and at a certain point that becomes like a deprecated release. Like you're no longer going to support that release once it's end of life. So you can like deprecate. You can put it in the catalog that that's deprecated, and what it'll do is when a user goes to upgrade or something like that, if they have it to where it's not following like strict semver, which I think is the feature gate, is, or the interpretation in that RFC is that that feature gate means only follow strict semver, like don't take anything else into account, only upgrade based on semver. Without that feature gate enabled, it's kind of like a, hey, let's take into consideration some other factors.
Do we know what the upgrade factors are? So what I got confused about is that there's basically kind of an upgrade, leave it to the operator, right? Leave it to the operator CR creator to just upgrade from anything to anything. Assume that operator just says, hey, I want to even upgrade from, I want to pivot from 2.0.0 to 1.0.0. That's allowed if they know what they're doing, right? Then there's December mode, right, which only moves upward, right? In the context of December, and I'm assuming you'll have policies around when you want to tolerate patches, major upgrades, that kind of thing. And then, but it talks about this middle mode, of which is not clearly documented, which seems more like it says it currently supports replaces skips, which is the OLMV0, the old OLMV0, the original one, upgrade graph. Is that still a thing? Are there 3 different upgrade options?
I'm not aware of whether or not we have the skips or replaces supported.
Well, I think in RFC, it actually says that this is how OLM v1 is currently implemented.
I suggest that we park this topic for now and come back to this after my demo, because I feel like I might be able to answer some of those
Okay.
questions.
Yep.
So please do make a note of all your questions.
I guess the only thing I want to say is there might have to be another deprecation RFC once all of the upgrade graph stuff is done, right? You may have to come revisit it and say, how does deprecation fit into it? Or it needs to fit on top of each subsequent upgrade graph RFC proposal. So either the initial upgrade support is going to have to include how it's going to deal with deprecation, if at all, and maybe explicitly say it's not going to use it, or we'll have to come back and revisit deprecation, for each of these different upgrade models. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that should be possible. And in the RFC for OLMv1's graph deprecation that's there, it does mention, like, for the current modes, like if the strict semver is enabled, deprecation doesn't impact resolution preference or anything like that. If it's not, then we do have negative preference for deprecated bundle versions. So in that RFC, there's an example where, like, you might have a couple deprecated versions, and what happens is they end up being moved to the bottom of the upgrade preference set of successors. And so what would happen is the most preferred update would be non-deprecated bundles ordered by semver, I think, in inverse order. So like the highest semver version comes first, and then decreasing there. And then the next set of preference in that ordering is deprecated bundles, same ordering of semver, I think, inverse, where like the highest is preferred, so on and so on. And then the last is like your currently installed version. So like if nothing is available beyond that, you stick with your currently installed. If only deprecated versions are available to upgrade to, and they're within your version range that you specified you're okay with upgrades, it can upgrade to that. But there's more conversations to be had that, I'm the author of that RFC. I'm happy to continue having those conversations in comments on that RFC or any other like ad hoc meetings that we might need to have.
Yeah, that's why I brought it up here. I just wanted to make sure, that I understood what the upgrade. I understand the spirit of what you're trying to do there, but I realize that there's a lot of other RFCs that are implemented yet or haven't even been thought of yet. So I just wanted to make sure they're going to continue being tied together.
Yeah, I don't think that this single RFC is like the end all be all for graph deprecation.
Yep, that's fine. One of the reasons I'm asking is as we roll this out, even in OLM v0, I'm trying to debate what to advise the entire company to do because we've all been wanting deprecation for quite some time. And thankfully for OLM v0, it really doesn't do much from a functional perspective. It's more or less a labeling constraint, which is great because it kind of at least it's a starting point. I just want to make sure it doesn't start, if people start adopting it, we're not going to see any adverse effects. And it sounds like we won't, at least for v0, but v1, just want to understand how that's going to move forward. I think you've answered my question.
Okay, I guess we can move on now. Up next, we have the doc staging folder being added to the operator controller. Anik, would you like to speak to that?
I think Anik is out on vacation.
Oh, right. I suppose. Well, the docs folder has been created as a PR, and it's just waiting on contents right now, if I'm not mistaken.
I think that the issue is that you can't create an empty folder. So I'm working on creating a doc, and then you have to create a file to create the staging folder. So basically when we do stuff, we just have to add it when we add a work in progress doc.
Okay.
What's the purpose of the staging folder?
Joe's idea was to have kind of more like contributor and developer docs before myself or the team or anybody kind of has a more refined, kind of more customer facing doc. So just things that are in that contributors and developers can iterate on quickly. As an example, so that so things that sorry, I hadn't been prepared to speak. But yeah, just docs that are kind of quickly documenting like a new feature or some reference docs to close out a milestone or things like that we can further polish in the more customer facing doc on the official version of the docs.
So are we thinking this is a staging area for production docs? Or are we thinking this is really development documentation? Would we cherry pick things from the staging folder and then bring them forth to the production folder once they're ready? Is that kind of how we're thinking?
I think we haven't had a whole lot of, this was, I think, introduced as a bit of a stopgap so that we could just document what we're doing as we're doing it and then refine it later. So yes, either to cherry pick it to the main docs folder or to use that content to then refine and polish up in terms of, style and formatting and things like that at a later date for the customer facing site.
And currently there is no documentation about use of the API or anything. It's more along the lines of how to use operator controller, but not really how to actually do other things. So that a lot of that stuff is kind of missing. So
Okay. Moving on. Now we have a demo from Bryce for the coast to coast features in OLM v1. I can stop sharing my screen so you can take over.
Okay.
If you're ready
I'll
for it.
also preface with I'm not going to be able to see like hands or anything like that. So if you have any questions, feel free to interrupt. And yeah, and I think this might also kind of intersect with Mikolai's demo. But so where? Okay, so I wrote up this doc that kind of walks through all the different new features that we've added to OLM v1, which includes polling for catalog D, version range support on the spec version field for the operator resources, the Semver upgrade constraint policy, and bundle deployment health status. And so I've got some stuff already. I've done some of the prerequisite stuff already on my terminal. And so just to show, I have a cluster running with kind. I have this operator controller one that's running and has some stuff installed. Let me pull this up. And so we can see that the namespaces we have the operator controller name system namespace, so catalog D and a Ruckpack as well. And we have the Ruckpack, bundle deployment, and operator and catalog CRDs. So what I'm going to go ahead and do is come. I have a little playground directory that I created that has all of the kind of like stuff you would get if you did operator, like went through the operator SDK commands to create a Go-based operator, and also created a Docker file for building a plain bundle. So that's the plain V0 type that Rockpack uses to unpack an image and stuff like that. So a simple little from scratch, and you have a manifest directory. But so I've gone ahead and built a bunch of different bundle versions as according to this doc. So we made a V100 alpha 1, 100, 101, 110, and 2. And so the idea to kind of step through this is going to build like this initial catalog. I've already got this Docker file that exists, but going to copy this initial raw FBC YAML file, have that created, but I have to change this out real quick. So this will create a catalog with just this one coastal operator bundle with this pre-release version here. So we can create that. I can do Docker build and push to latest. Of course, I have to log in. So give me 1 second to stop sharing while I log in and be right back. Okay. And so now it should work. And so now we have this latest version of the catalog with just this one bundle in, and we can go ahead and we can create this catalog resource. So create this catalog resource. We have a poll interval of 15 seconds. I have to change this again. And so what that's going to do is that'll make sure that whenever we push to this new latest tag, every 15 seconds, catalog D is going to poll this catalog and see if there's any updates. So I'll go ahead and create this, and we can see. Okay. So I have an issue with that there. I'm not going to worry about that for right now. So we can see, get the catalog. We can see that it's unpacked. And so that catalog, we have a resolved reference, SHA-256, 04B2, CB2, blah, blah, blah. We should eventually see that change when we make different pushes to the catalog. So now what we'll do is we'll create an operator resource to install this coastal operator using the version range 10x. So we only want patch versions. We only want Z-Stream releases from a 1.0 release, and we want to ignore pre-release versions. So if I create this operator, as we previously had, we only had a single pre-release version in there. So we are expecting this resolution to fail, and that there's no versions matching that. So then what we can do is we can go back here, and in the instructions here, we have like how you can add a bundle to your catalog and update the channels to reflect that. So I will copy this over. And we'll update the bundles in the catalog. and then we can update the channel. And so this will add the v100 to the stable channel. Then we can do a Docker build push to latest, and we should eventually see if I watch this catalog, we should see that the resolved reference is different than what it was previously. That's because it pulled and updated. And then if we come back here, we should see that we have now successfully installed v100 of this coastal bundle. There's now a bundle deployment created that's been successfully unpacked. And we can see that the bundle deployment is healthy. This new bundle deployment healthy status will check all the resources that are installed, and there's different criteria that determine whether or not these resources are healthy. And if there is any unhealthy ones, this status will be false, and it'll have a message of why the bundle deployment is unhealthy. But in this case, we expect it to be healthy. We can also see the deployment for our new our operator, the whole coastal operator. We see in the namespaces that there's the new coastal system namespace. We can see that the pod is running, and we can see in the CRDs that we have a new CRD that belongs to this operator. So that is a brief piece showing that. And then now to show kind of the upgrades, we can do the same addition to the catalog, but in this case, we'll do a ZStream. And that looks good. We'll add that, and then we will add the new ZStream to the catalog, build it one more time, and push it. And then we should see that again, this will change to be a different SHA-256. Give it a little bit of time.
I think it's updated.
Yep.
Yeah.
So there we go. And then again, come back here, we should see that we have now updated to the ZStream release. Another part of that, the documentation demo that I have shows that with the version range restricted to ZStreams only, it won't automatically upgrade if we do a minor version. So if we come back here and we do the same thing again, but this time we add the 110 release or 110 bundle to the catalog. And channel. And push that catalog again. We should again see that it gets updated to be a different SHA-256. Yep. And so now it's updated again, and it's a different SHA-256 now. And then we can see again that the operator is still constrained, like it hasn't changed, and it's still installed at 101. And then if we go and we were to update the operator's version range to be ZStreams of 1.1, and we upgrade that, and we should see very quickly the operator is upgraded to 110. We can see the bundle deployment is unhealthy and it's waiting on the new version to come up. Now it's up, and we can see that we now have this deployment that has the 110 image, and we have the pod up and running. So That is also the other thing was showing upgrades against like through major versions. So if we add the v20 bundle, see that it won't automatically upgrade, and we should also see here.
Just a quick question. So those version ranges you put in the operator, those could be any mastermind's version range string, right?
I believe so. I can't remember if it's Blang or masterminds, but
So if you're talking about the version range string within the operator, yeah, the version there, it does not support the hyphen operator. So you can't do a hyphen range. You can only do less than or equals or those type of operators.
But so as before, we have the 110 version installed here. If we try to change the version range here to be, say, I want to install 2.0, we should get a failure because the default Semver upgrade policy is in force, and it will restrict Semver upgrades to not go across major versions, and it will also restrict downgrades from occurring. So if we update that, we should see that we have a resolution failure. The resolution failure message is saying that the version that's installed is 110 and you're trying to upgrade to 200. And essentially that's the failure message here isn't super great. I created an issue for like, we should have better error messages saying that like, hey, you're trying to cross a major version boundary and we don't allow that. But so now let's try to actually cross that boundary by forcing the Semver upgrade policy. Actually, I have it somewhere in here. So if we go, there's an escape hatch for the upgrade constraint policy. So if we apply this and set it to ignore, we should see that it will go ahead and perform the upgrade. So we apply that, come back to this tab, and we should see that now we have the v200 installed. The bundle deployment is waiting, but we can see that the deployment is 200. And then the same thing goes for downgrades. So now that we have 200 installed, if we come back here, keep the default of enforce, and set this to 110 or 11x like we had before, it will fail because it doesn't want to downgrade. So we can see that there's the problem with downgrading. If we again go to ignore and set this to 11x again, apply, we'll see that 110 has been installed again. But yeah, so that is the demo, and yeah.
So does that allow you to skip over major versions, like go from version 1 to version 3?
I would imagine so. We can try it.
Yeah, I'm just wondering if what the policy upgrade constraint policy really allows. We have a lot of products, for example, who've been using the minor version. They require everybody to traverse through all of the minor versions because they do like database upgrades and stuff like that in there. So it sounds like with this new model, they would probably have to use major versions because it can be considered breaking change or a major change. And then we'd have to probably tell customers not to skip over versions if there was some kind of non-skippable version. Is that true?
Yeah, I think I can answer this question. So with the Semver, with the Semver upgrade constraints, you can go from version 1 to version 3 if you have upgrade constraint policy set to ignore. You cannot do that if you have upgrade constraint policy set to enforce. So with enforce set as a policy, you can go within the major version. So like, for example, from 1.00, you can upgrade to 1.9, whatever. But yeah, to go from 1 to 2 or from 1 to 3, you have to set ignore version, ignore policy.
Right. So if you, right, just to clarify, so if you have the conversion constraint set, which is the default, to not ignore, then you can freely upgrade upwards in any patch or minor release.
Yes, that's correct.
Okay.
There is one exception. So, and I'm not sure if it's like worth, I think it is worth documenting it thoroughly. So the major version 0 is a special one. It's a special case. Some verse spec says that major version 0 is reserved for initial development. So, for example, if you have version 0.01, so patch version is 1, you will not automatically upgrade to 0.02. You will have to use constraint policy ignore to do that. And there is a different rule for 0.1 versions, for example. So when you have 0.10, you are free to upgrade from within the patch, within the major, sorry, not major. What is the second number? Major, minor patch, right? Within the minor patch, so like you can go from 0.1 to 0 to, sorry, from 0.10 to 0.19, for example. So like the major 0 version is special, but everything above 0 point version is consistent, and at the moment OLM will allow you to go within the major version. So like 0.00, you can go 0.90. But you will not be able to go from 1.0 version to 2.0, so next major version, without using a ignore policy. So, and I hope I did not mess up with the numbers when I was talking, because I'm known for saying wrong numbers when I speak, and do not look at the numbers. But yeah, that is basically how it works. And I think Bryce covered most of my demo. Bryce, do you have anything else you want to talk about?
I have one more question for Bryce.
I got a quick question. So I want to quickly ask that, is there any easy way to see the resolved/installed version on the status of the operator object? Because in the demo, I mostly see, we are currently relying on the image reference to indicate, okay, the operators actually update to the newer version, so on and so forth. But right now, it seems that, the image reference now we're using is just tag based, right? But in many of the production use case, that image reference will be SHA based. So I wonder if there's an easy way for the end user / the admin to easily see, okay, now I actually got my operator installed on 1.0.0 and then upgrade to 1.0.3. So, this is, to me, is a kind of like, there's an easy way for admin to answer what is the current resolve / installed version of my operator?
Yeah, right now we do not have that, but there is an issue on GitHub for us to introduce that. So it's like easier view of what's currently installed and resolved. So that there is, I will try to find a issue number for you, but there is definitely one which is still open.
I just shared my screen, and there is a status that shows the installed bundle resource and the resolved bundle resource like separately from like these actual status conditions fields.
Right, but I think my point is that that's basically grabbed from the image reference, right? So if
Right.
that bundle is a SHA based, then it's hard to tell it's actually version 3.0.0 in this case, right?
I mean, even
Yeah,
if it's not
exactly.
SHA-based, there's no guarantee or requirement or anything that that tag is something that's
Yeah, it's fine. I just wanted to, yeah, I'm not saying we need to show that as image reference link. I'm just saying, I think this is important, just that to answer some basic questions like, okay, what is my current installed version on cluster? I think there needs to be a way to easily tell that, right?
Yeah, I just
I think
pasted.
image reference is really important. Yes, just that we probably also need another way to show the version.
Yeah, I just posted the link in chat to the issue, which I believe this is the one I was mentioning. So we currently have installed bundle resource and resolved bundle resource. Those are, as you said, normally a SHA with the image reference with the SHA. But yeah, it will definitely be helpful to understand what is actually installed, like what version, and I think we need to bubble it up in the status. We currently do not do that, but there is an issue open and it's a link in the chat.
Gotcha. Thanks.
Hey, this is Chris. I just have one last comment for Bryce. I think the very first thing you showed is you basically upgraded a bundle in the same version. So 1.0.0 to 1.0.0. Prime, essentially, right? That would be normally a not be that wouldn't be a best practice, right? We would typically want bundles to be immutable, right, from versions. Will we have ability to prevent that sometime down the road? I definitely don't want my product teams, creating a lot. I mean, during development, that makes sense, right? But during production, we'd want to come up with, just updating the image that represents 100, because the customer will never be able to figure out which 100 they actually have without looking at the digest.
Yeah, I don't think I updated a bundle image itself. I was updating a catalog.
But even so, if you updated the catalog to say 100 points to a different bundle image. So in my team, I prevent that. So I make sure catalogs are immutable, or bundles are immutable, and their primary keys essentially. So you know what I mean?
Yeah, I don't think that there's anything that prevents updates or changes to the catalog specifically, aside from like validation stuff. Like you could totally, if you don't have the right validations and stuff in your pipeline, you could push changes that
Yep. Okay.
Change that.
Yep.
Okay, I think we can move on to Mikolai's demo if you're ready, Mikolai.
Yeah, I think Bryce actually covered everything, but maybe I will still do it because I also wanted to talk a little bit about how things currently work, like basically put it in comparison with OLM v0 and how OLM v1 was behaving before the change related to firmware. So let's go through it anyway, but we'll see how it will turn out. So in OLM v0 and in OLM v1, before we merged the firmware stuff, we had the concept of replaces, and I have a list of bundles related to Mongo Atlas Kubernetes operator from operator hub.io catalog. So you can see that it lists a bunch of bundles related to this package, and here's the bundle name, and we have 3 columns here. One is represents replaces, skips, and skip ranges. So OLM v0 has this concept of those 3 constraints you can set on upgrades. One is the most basic one, which we can see used in this package, is replaces. It basically says that let's take this version. That version 1.70 is replacing version 1.6.1 and so on. Like you can see that basically it's kind of linear, kind of like a linked list in here. One version replaces another, one version replaces another, etc., 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 until we reach the end of this linked list. Some in OLMv0 there is also a concept of skips and skips ranges. OLMv0 does support it already. OLMv1 does not. So at the moment in OLMv1 we only have support of replaces. When we talk about legacy upgrade constraints. So this is where we are with the legacy catalogs. So for example, if I were to install this version and I want to go to, let's say, this one, I would have to install this one and upgrade to this one and upgrade to this one and upgrade to this one in order to receive this version. So like it's multiple operations going in one by one. So what the semver changes is that semver assumes that all the versions within the major versions are compatible. There are no breaking changes within the patch versions and within the minor versions. So like everything within 1 point whatever is backward compatible. So we updated OLMv0 to use this semver strategy when it comes to upgrade edges. OLMv0 at the moment uses it by default, and you can change this behavior by updating deployment of your OLM of operator controller. You either set it to false or remove the feature flag. What it will do, it will completely ignore what catalog says about replaces and skip ranges. It will allow you to install this version and go straight to this one. And it will prevent, as Bryce showed, going to 2.0 version, unless you set upgrade constraint policy to ignore. And in both legacy and firmware upgrade constraint semantics in OLMv1, it is not possible to go down. So it's not possible to downgrade when you enforce upgrade constraints. But in both, when you have both, in both states of the feature gate, you can do downgrades if you set upgrade constraint policy to ignore. So that is probably what is worth covering, given that Bryce already extensively covered everything I wanted to show. And I'm happy to take any questions.
Yeah, I've got one. So as I mentioned before, we have some products that have they increment the minor version, so the middle number, and they're fully backward compatible, but they have migration steps in some state that they need to do. So they need to not skip those minor versions. So for those guys to work in your new world, they're going to have to increment the major version because you're counting migrations as non-compatible changes.
Yes, I think that is correct way to do that with the new world. You upgrade the major version because migration is not backward compatible. So if anything that requires schema change or whatever, like from one bundle to another, is a backward change, backward incompatible change. Another thing which is potentially coming, and I think it is mentioned in the RFC, but we haven't discussed it as far as I know in more detail. So I think there is an idea that we will eventually remove the feature gate, but will allow the catalog to tell the operator controller which strategy to use, whether it's OLM v01, the legacy where you can say this bundle replaces this bundle, etc., or the SemWare one. So it will be not up to the person who deploys the operator controller to decide whether to use SemWare or legacy semantics, but to the operator author. With that approach, you will probably be able to say that my operator requires those steps and manually build the upgrade edges as you see fit, and dictate the controller how to upgrade. And it will be basically, if you want to use the major 0 version or whatever, it will be up to you. But again, it is not even in RFC at this moment. It's just an idea which we had while working on this RFC, but nothing specific at the moment.
Andy or Chris, do you have anything?
Thanks. Yeah, I'm going to propose a different option, which is that we write down that there is a need to be able to indicate that you can't skip minor versions, and that somehow is manifested in the bundle metadata and the catalog metadata, and that we don't force people to go to a new major version just to do a schema migration. So I would recommend exploring that path.
So I think what you're saying is, yeah, basically what I just described, but like in a little bit different form. So yeah, on the catalog level, operator author will be able to say, yeah, use one approach or the other.
Well, that's not actually what I meant. So I don't like skips and replaces. I would like to be able to say you can't skip minor versions. Not like you have, like, I don't want to put specific numbers. I just want to say when you're upgrading, you have to upgrade to either a patch in the same minor version or the next minor version, but you can't skip minor versions. And that's like a true false setting that you put on your metadata.
So you want that as part of the operator, not part of the, you want that part of the catalog, not part of the actual operator CR.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes,
yeah, I think we should. I think we definitely need an RFC to discuss all that, because I have a whole bunch of corner cases that make it interesting.
Yeah.
I think. Sorry, go on.
No, I mean, I'd also think that this needs a more in-depth discussion. We probably want to have this in a place where we can at least review what we ended up deciding on. So I definitely vote for either the RFC or just following a thread for this. Kevin, did you have anything for us?
No, I think Chris pretty much said the same thing I did. Out of hand, I think it's a very interesting option to explore. I think we need to write it all down and kind of like go through the process from there, because I do think there's a lot of cases and edges to that problem that are non-obvious.
All right then. We also have to get through the milestones for our projects, which shouldn't take a lot of time, but let's just go through those really quick. For the catalog D, I think we've had a new release. So Bryce, would you like to speak to that?
Yeah, so we cut a new release that contained all the milestone or all the issues in this milestone. I think we have completed all the like epic, quote unquote epic, like RFC implementations for Catalog D that have been out there so far. So yeah, we've got all the features that we had planned out into the future, I think implemented and are all included in 0.10.0, which should be included in the next release of Operator Controller. I believe the Dependabot automatically updated it in Operator Controller. So I do need to close that milestone out and create a new one.
Okay. Up next we have the operator controller milestone, which just has the end-to-end demo, which I believe we can close out with today, and also the documentation for the summer version ranges. Would anyone like to speak either of those?
I'll have the PR open for the version ranges this week.
For that end-to-end demo, I think the documentation thing that I put up, I think meets that. But I have currently in draft that PR because I wanted to reference the proper operator controller version that is released with all these features. And so I think whenever this merges into main, it auto rebuilds the documentation site. So we could, I don't know how we want to do like moving that issue, if we want to just keep it in that milestone and we cut the operator controller release and then I get this merged and all is good, or, but I think we can count the demo stuff done.
I think it should be okay to, well, if we are waiting on a specific version of operator controller with the features to be released first, then we could either just mark that as done and have it have a version of operator controller cut with the right stuff pulled in to be added to it later, or we could just hold that on to the next milestone until we have that right version in as a sort of small change. We could decide on that in Slack if that's okay.
Yep, sounds good to me.
And we also have the TEPI 1.0 milestone. Miklai, would you like to speak to this one? Okay, I think there is already some information about like the state of the issue here. So I think this is still not done, but at least the issue has been identified. So we could probably continue work on that. Moving on, we also have so Rockpack has been removed as part of our milestone check-in in favor of integrating the gap controller into our projects instead. So we'd be skipping that. And if anyone has anything to bring up, like that's not on the agenda, now would be the time to.
I just wanted to quickly mention that, sorry, I just couldn't unmute. I don't know, something like everything hung up. That I think you gave a very good summary of DEPI. One thing got closed yesterday, I think, and another one is in progress. I'll submit a PR sometime this week.
Okay, thanks, Miklai. If no one has anything else, would anyone like to host the meeting next week? We can also decide on that async if it's not something we want to take up now. But
I think I should be able to do that. I need to double check, but I think I can do that.
All right. Let me know if you have any issues with that. If not, I could take over next week as well.
Yeah,
But
thanks.
I think that's all we have for today. Thanks for joining, everyone. Well, I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day.
Thank you.